Good morning. I am Hotchkiss Bradstreet. Welcome to Jackson Sternum Dershwan. Is it Dershwan Johnson?
Yes, Johnson. Like the vaccines, safe and effective. But with an O, I like to say.
Indeed. How witty. Like the vaccine. I must recall that later in my notes. I must say at the outset that I am most impressed by your impeccably eclectic taste in attire for our very first meeting.
Well, you know, Hotchkiss.
Mr. Bradstreet.
Yeah, well, you know, what can I say? The moment I rolled up in this joint, I said to myself, Dershwan, now this is real class. Class. Real class.
Yes, what can you say? Jackson Sternum enjoys a rather fine reputation amongst our select clientele, and we do prefer to keep it that way. And so before we begin, perhaps you would like a cup of coffee or a mocha, a latte, should you prefer. We also have a rather large selection of teas, should that suit your fancy. And Grace would be more than happy to prepare it for you, wouldn't you, Grace?
Mocha or latte? Tough choices. I think I would prefer a latte.
A man of exquisite taste who appreciates the finer things in life, I can see. You should fit in very well here. Grace, please get on. Guest a latte.
Thank you very much.
Now, Dershwan, can you tell me a bit more about what had attracted you when applying to our firm, from amongst all of the other fine choices that you certainly had enjoyed? Why us? What was it about Jackson Sternum that made you believe that you belonged here?
Well, you know, you gotta pay the bills, and after college, I wanted to not just earn a living wage like some folks, but also enjoy the finer things in life. Maybe get a fine luxury automobile to roll around in, enjoy some travel, end the day with a nice glass of Sauvignon. You know, you can't do that working at Mickey D's.
Yes, a starting salary at Jackson Sternum would probably place you in another tax bracket. But Dershwan, am I pronouncing that correctly? And the compensation appears to be quite a draw for quite a few people. But certainly there are other opportunities out there to enjoy a fine compensation. So please tell me a little bit more about what it was that had attracted you here to us.
Well, I was looking for a challenge to challenge myself, per se. I have overcome quite a few obstacles in life. Not many folks like me even get into a college, you know, much less graduate. But I have that can-do attitude, I like to say. And I'm the first one in the very first one in my family to go to college.
Most certainly making your family quite proud, I'm sure.
My mom was crying tears of joy when I walked off the stage. I even got a little emotional myself there. Like, dang, who would believe this, right? Dershwan Johnson, college graduate. And now dude it all up, ready to take on life in the real world. Know what I'm saying? You know, I like to keep it real, and tell it like it is, and having no difficult conversations.
Indeed, and you are certainly off to a very good start on demonstrating that aspect of your distinct, unique aptitudes. But perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about yourself, Dershwan, and background beyond what we have already been able to glean from the highlights on your resume. Provide us some idea about what you bring to the table, what value added that sets you apart from all of the other candidates for employment.
Well, Mr. Bradstreet, I don't have to tell you I add color to this place. Looking around this joint, I am gonna bet you probably don't have any other folks up in here who come to the table, like you say, with my unique perspective. keeping it real. Y'all may have seen a few movies, but this is the real thing, the real deal.
Bona fide. So let's begin by discussing your education. I see that you had selected as your major social studies. Why don't you tell me a little bit more about that?
Oh yeah, I have always been all about paying it forward, and especially after the pandemic. I began to focus, you see, on adversities, disparities, and diversities in division. My social studies helped me to get a good grip on the plight of the people. My people have suffered a lot, you know that, especially with the pandemic, terrible losses, and I'm all about the people.
Quite the people person, as I can already see from just our very brief introduction. And I shall be sure to emphasize that to my peeps, as you say. But you did mention the pandemic, which had presented quite a challenge to us all. Everyone lost something, even though it may have been different for everyone. And as I can see from your transcript, that you did not quite graduate summa cum laude from your college, a very fine college, I might add. I had attended Harvard myself. But to give us a better idea about how you think, your thought processes and methodologies for resolving problems, with which we have quite a few here at Jackson-Sternum, perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about that, how you had personally faced the challenges of a pandemic in your studies, and how you had developed a course of action reasonably calculated to overcome those difficulties.
Well, at the beginning of the pandemic, you see, I was student leader, president of the Inclusive Students Union and Society. I had helped the school administration get our students to wear masks, practice social distancing, and get vaccinated when it was their turn. I had to step away a little bit from my activities in the climate change. But we all had to make some changes in the pandemic. Some folks were not following the CDC guidance and putting others at risk. So I had to follow my duty and do that thing.
Communal responsibility.
Yeah, that's what they call it. After the pandemic and return to classes, I took the initiative, because that's important, to join with the LGBTQ students to fight for equality in extracurricular sports and use of restroom facilities. It's not about what you do or what you say, but how you make people feel, and that's important.
Quite a remarkably original thought. Do you mind if I use that myself? I shall be sure to give you credit, of course. I must say that I greatly admire your sense of self-sacrifice. But it appears, at least from your transcript, that your focus on these other, while certainly important activities, may have resulted in further consequences to your personal academic studies, if they were not already lackluster. And we have all at least read or heard about the learning losses that have so adversely affected so many of our academic institutions. How did you develop a course to address this obstacle for yourself?
Well, I went to college to get the knowledge, but that was really the responsibility of the administration, out of my control. I mean, I went to class and did the homework, but that was really beyond my control. It is what it is, and so I just had to make do.
Some forces indeed are simply beyond our control. And as I look at my watch, I see I have a 10 o'clock that I simply cannot miss. So we shall have to wrap things up here, Dershwan. It has been such a delight meeting with you. And thank you so much for your time. If you have a need, please feel free to use our restroom on your way out. And don't worry, because we certainly don't discriminate here. This message was approved by Major Mike Webb. Honest.